Hello, this is part 1, photo issues section B of my moon hoax conspiracy series. In this video, I'm going to talk about topography problems of the moon within the photos of the Apollo 11 supposed moon landings. I'm also going to talk about some skeptics or examples of skeptics that have exposed a lot of things about these landings in more recent years. Those examples will be towards the end of this video. So here we go. Moonscapes and topography in these Apollo 11 photos, and really all of the Apollo photos of the whole project, don't look real because there's no texture. They look like smooth hills. This is not correct according to science. Weaver in his book talks about a NASA photo from Apollo 16 on page 130 that's a really great example of this. It's one of the biggest signs of fakery. In my opinion, probably the biggest sign of the moon hoax is the photos. The moon should be rocky, uneven, not smooth. They use the term craggy in this book. I don't really like that term, but scientifically, they would not look like smooth hills. You would have very uneven surfaces, and some of it would look like odd rock formations. That's not present in these photos or videos. They look like smooth hills. It's simply not reality. NASA's photos of Apollo 11 go contrary to their own photos from their own lunar orbiters of the moon. That's also in the Weaver book. Apollo 14 landing sites had issues according to photo expert Ted Aranda. You can find his research all over the hoax theories. You have landscapes with no boulders or craters. The Astros were to visit a non-existent crater in Apollo 14 called Cone Crater. And then the Astros gave strange excuses along with NASA to why this didn't even exist. They basically lied. I'm not sure exactly why, but this crater does not exist. The Apollo 15 landing site, which was the moon Mount Hadley, is 4.5 kilometers tall, according to NASA. You're talking mileage, but it looks like a white blob in NASA images. It's all over a lot of the internet research. The Apollo 16 landing site can't be that far. You can see small rocks on the edge. You're talking 1 kilometer away. How would that even be possible? That is supposedly Ray Crater. There's all kinds of inconsistencies with these photos all over the Apollo program. The Apollo 17 landing site on page 136 of the Weaver book shows the lunar rover next to Camelot Crater, which is not to scale. This is really, really bad. The Kubrick horizontal is present there once again. This is not even remotely reality when you look at photographic evidence. I believe this was all faked. In Apollo 15 photos, the rocket skirt fired at 2,000 degrees Celsius looks unused or store-bought. But this would be impossible. That's on page 150 of the Weaver book. The Weaver book, by the way, is a good book on a lot of these technical points. It simply doesn't add up. The Earthrise photos were faked because of being in a higher orbit at the time. That's all over the research. That's also in his book. Weaver thinks all the Apollo photos were faked. I agree with him. I think the entire Apollo program was faked, and I think to this very day there may be major parts of NASA, or some parts, that may still be faked. Many experts think stage lights were used. I think there was a ton of it through all the photographic evidence suggesting a Hollywood set. This was all faked. In an Armstrong photo, you can see a small rock on a horizon that's supposed to be 2.5 kilometers away. You're talking mileage, but you can see a small rock on a horizon? How would that even be possible? It's simply not reality. The Earthrise photo, according to Weaver, was corrected in 2018. another cover-up. Images of the supposed Apollo landing sites were doctored in 2009 by putting in new trails on old footage. That's also in the Weaver book, page 154 through 6. Keep in mind, all the photos of Earth are composites. Meaning there's photos adding up to make that one big photo. There's never been one big photo of Earth. A lot of people don't know this. I didn't even know this till recently. NASA was under pressure by skeptics that expose all this. Many other skeptics, like me and some others, have done exposés on this type of stuff through social media, like what I'm doing now. So they keep covering up or they keep manipulating. Weaver exposed a key point. There's also issues with the rate of photos and the cameras. They're simply too perfect in my opinion. You go on the moon, you take thousands of photos and every photo was perfect. What would even be the chances? You're talking 1 in a billion. One photo every 48 seconds according to Weaver. It may be worse than that. 6,000 photos and 6 Apollo missions that are all perfect. It's insane. It's simply not reality. In Apollo 15, 2 people took one photo every minute according to NASA. That's on page 259 of the Weaver book. This just doesn't make any sense. You're taking all these perfect photos with the equivalent of baking mitts up on the moon and they're all perfect. It simply doesn't add up. The Hasselblad cameras were supposedly on auto the whole time. It just doesn't make any sense. It's simply not believable. Writer and researcher Marcus Allen is very skeptical that Neil Armstrong just walked off the LM or the spaceship and started taking perfect photographs. How did he pull it off? In my view, he didn't, because this was all fake. It's a form of acting. Allen was on George Norrie's Coast to Coast AM 800 show back about 6 years ago, in March of 20. He claims that all the Apollo photos were faked. You have issues with glare on all the photos and no stars. That was a big issue with him. The cameras that were used, which are the Hasselblad cameras, according to him, were not good in space, and the camera and all the film would have melted. This has been talked about on some of the internet stuff going back to at least the late 1990s. He heavily exposed a lot of this over time. In the Scary Mysteries documentary, 5 Creepy Things About the Moon on YouTube recently, there's some photos on there of Apollo from NASA that don't add up. This is another expose. These are just a few examples. There's many more of them out there. In Apollo 12, there's a reflection of a spotlight on a rope or a similar device in an astro's visor. How would that even be possible if you are supposed to be on the moon? The letter C is on a moon rock. This was from 1972 and probably Apollo 15 suggests it's a prop, like on a movie set. It looks like a marine rock. NASA claims it's hair. What would be the chances? You have a letter C on a rock that doesn't even look like a moon rock and they claim it's hair? It's a massive cover-up. This was all being filmed on a Hollywood set, in my opinion, or something like that. You have issues like this all over the entire Apollo program up to 1972, which was the end of Apollo. Think about it, folks. These are big manipulations. These are big anomalies and inconsistencies. They do not add up. It's basic logic. If this is not possible, then the whole thing is not possible. It's a hoax. Once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration. In the next video, I'm going to talk about more odd things and problems with photos, more anomalies with the photos such as odd reflections. I'm also going to talk about more of the problems with the Hasselblad cameras. I don't believe these cameras were functional on the moon. In the second video, I'm also going to talk about skeptic Bill Casing in the 1970s, and all the problems he encountered in that time period trying to expose the moon hoax. It went right up to the point of harassment and stalking on him. Once again, thank you for your time. I'll see you next week. It's free to subscribe.